The gunshot echoed through the marble hallway just as Celeste dropped the crystal vase. Her hands were still shaking from scrubbing the third-floor bathrooms when she heard the little girl scream. Without thinking, she ran toward the sound, toward danger, toward the one place every servant in the Moretti mansion knew to avoid, the East Wing, where the boss conducted his business. But that scream wasn't business. That was terror. That was a child. Celeste burst through the mahogany doors and saw her immediately. Little Sofia Moretti, 6 years old with dark curls and her mother's eyes, stood frozen in the center of the room. A man in black, not one of the household guards, had his gun aimed at the child's small frame. Time fractured into sharp, terrible clarity. Celeste didn't weigh her options or calculate the risk. She simply moved. Her body collided with Sofia's just as the shot fired. The impact knocked them both sideways. Pain exploded through Celeste's shoulder like white-hot lightning, but her arms locked around the little girl, twisting so her own body absorbed the fall against the marble floor. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Sofia's screams pierced through the ringing in Celeste's ears. Blood bloomed across her uniform, spreading like dark roses on white cotton. The room spun. Shadows moved at the edges of her vision, more guards rushing in, the intruder being tackled to the ground, voices shouting in Italian. But Celeste's focus narrowed to the terrified child beneath her, still screaming, still alive. "Shh, baby girl," Celeste whispered, though her own voice shook with shock. "You're okay. You're safe now." The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was a man's face looming above them. Strong features carved from stone and fury, eyes the color of a winter storm. Dante Moretti, the Mafia boss himself, and in his expression, she saw something that looked almost like fear. When Celeste woke, everything hurt. Not just her shoulder where the bullet had torn through muscle and bone, but everywhere: her back, her ribs, her head. She tried to move and immediately regretted it. A groan escaped her lips before she could stop it. "Don't move." The voice was deep, commanding, edged with an accent that made every word sound like a threat or a promise. "The doctor said you need to stay still." Celeste's eyes flew open. She was in a bedroom, no, not just a bedroom. A master suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured gardens, furniture that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime, and medical equipment that belonged in a hospital. An IV drip fed into her arm. Bandages wrapped her shoulder so tightly she could barely breathe. And sitting in a chair beside her bed, looking like he hadn't slept in days, was Dante Moretti. "Mr. Moretti." Celeste tried to sit up, panic flooding her system. She was in his private quarters. "Servants didn't come here. Ever. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be. You saved my daughter's life." His voice cut through her stammering like a blade through silk. Where you should or shouldn't be is no longer relevant. Celeste's mind struggled to catch up. Fragments of memory assembled themselves. The gunshot, Sofia's scream, the pain, the blood. Is she okay? Sofia, is she hurt? Something shifted in Dante's expression. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "You took a bullet for her, and the first thing you ask about is whether she's hurt?" "She's 6 years old." Celeste met his eyes despite the fear crawling up her spine. Despite the fact that this man could make her disappear with a word, and no one would question it. "Of course that's the first thing I ask." Dante studied her with an intensity that made her feel transparent, like he could see every secret she'd ever kept. "Sofia is physically unharmed. Emotionally traumatized but alive. Thanks to you." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. The doctor removed the bullet. "You're lucky it missed the major arteries. Another inch to the right and you would have bled out before we could get you help." "How long have I been unconscious?" 36 hours. Celeste's eyes widened. 36 my shift. I need to. You no longer work as a maid." The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Celeste's heart plummeted. Of course. She'd broken protocol, entered the East Wing without permission, interrupted whatever business Dante had been conducting. She was fired. Possibly worse than fired. "I understand," she said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'll leave as soon as I can walk." "You misunderstand." Dante's expression remained unreadable. "You no longer work as a maid because I'm reassigning you. As of now, you're Sofia's personal guardian. You'll live in the family quarters, accompany her everywhere, ensure her safety at all times." Celeste stared at him, certain she'd misheard. I'm not qualified for that. I'm just what? Just the woman who threw herself in front of a bullet meant for my daughter without hesitation? Just the person my child has been asking for every hour since the attack? His voice dropped lower, rougher. Sofia hasn't spoken since her mother died 8 months ago. She communicates through nods and gestures with me. She screams in her sleep. But when she woke up after the shooting, do you know what she did? Celeste shook her head, afraid to breathe. She asked for you. 3 words. Where is Celeste? The first words she's spoken in 8 months. Dante stood abruptly, moving to the window. His shoulders were rigid beneath his perfectly tailored suit. So no, Miss Baptiste, you don't get to leave. My daughter needs you. And what Sofia needs, she gets. The way he said it made it clear this wasn't a request or even an offer. This was a command dressed up as an opportunity. Celeste's mind raced. She'd been working at the Moretti mansion for 6 months, one of dozens of servants who cleaned and cooked and kept the estate running, while pretending not to notice the men with guns or the late-night meetings or the fact that their employer was one of the most dangerous men on the East Coast. She'd taken the job because it paid 3 times what she could earn anywhere else, because her mother's medical bills were drowning her, because her younger brother needed tuition money for college and her sister needed somewhere safe to stay after her ex-boyfriend had put her in the hospital. The Moretti mansion offered good pay, room and board, and ironclad security. Celeste had learned to keep her head down, do her work, and ask no questions. But this was diving headfirst into the family's inner circle. This was becoming visible in a world where invisibility meant survival. What if I refuse? She had to ask, even though she already knew the answer. Dante turned from the window. You won't. How do you know? Because I had someone investigate your background while you were unconscious. He said it without apology, stating facts. Celeste Baptiste, 24 years old. Dropped out of nursing school 2 years ago when your mother was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. You work 3 jobs, or you did before coming here. You send 80% of your earnings home to Brooklyn. Your brother Marcus is on a full academic scholarship at Columbia, but scholarships don't cover living expenses. Your sister Tiana is staying in a women's shelter after leaving an abusive relationship. Each word felt like a violation. He'd stripped away her privacy, exposed every vulnerable corner of her life. Celeste's hands clenched in the expensive sheets. You had no right. I had every right. Dante's voice turned to ice. Someone tried to kill my daughter in my own home. That means everyone gets investigated. But unlike the others, Miss Baptiste, you came back clean. No criminal record, no suspicious connections, no debts to dangerous people. Just a young woman working herself to death to take care of her family. He moved closer to the bed. So here's what I'm offering. Salary of $150,000 a year. Full health insurance for you and your family, including covering your mother's cancer treatment at the best facility in the country. Private apartment in the estate. Your brother gets a job in one of my legitimate businesses to supplement his scholarship. Your sister gets a position here as well, somewhere safe where her ex can never find her. Celeste's breath caught. That kind of money, those resources, it would change everything. Her mother could get the treatment she needed, instead of the bare minimum insurance covered. Marcus wouldn't have to work night shifts that were destroying his grades. Tiana would be safe. In exchange, Dante continued, you protect my daughter with your life. You help her heal. You become whatever she needs you to be. And you never, ever leave without my permission. There it was, the trap beneath the gold. So I'd be a prisoner. You'd be family. He said it like they were the same thing. The Moretti family takes care of its own, but loyalty is absolute. There is no halfway. You're either in completely or you're out. And if I choose out? Dante's expression remained neutral, but something dark flickered in his eyes. Then I pay you a generous severance, ensure you're fully healed, and you walk away. But you walk away from Sofia too. No contact, no visits. She's already lost her mother. I won't let her get attached to someone else who's going to disappear. The manipulation was elegant, cruel, effective. He knew she couldn't abandon Sofia now, not after seeing the little girl's terror, not after hearing that she'd spoken for the first time in months. He was using his daughter as leverage, and he knew it worked because he was desperate enough not to care. You're a bastard, Celeste said quietly. Yes. No argument, no defense, just acknowledgement. But I'm a bastard who loves his daughter more than anything in this world. And right now, she needs you. He pulled something from his pocket and held it out. Before you decide, you should know we found this in your uniform pocket after the shooting. It was a photograph, worn and creased from being carried everywhere. The picture showed 3 people, a young woman with warm brown skin and kind eyes, a teenage boy with his arm around a girl who couldn't have been more than 12, Celeste's family, her reason for everything. You dropped it when you were shot, Dante said. Sofia found it while the medics were working on you. She's been asking about them, about who they are, about whether they know you're a hero. Celeste's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. That photograph had been taken 3 years ago, before the cancer diagnosis, before Tiana's nightmare relationship, before everything fell apart. Her mother had been smiling in that picture, really smiling. I need to call them, Celeste said. They'll be worried. Already done. I had someone contact your mother yesterday. Told her you were injured in an accident at work but you're recovering well. She wanted to come but I explained you'd be in touch as soon as the doctors cleared you for phone calls. He paused. I didn't tell her the truth about what happened. That's your choice to make. Another manipulation giving her the illusion of control over something small to make the bigger cage feel less confining. Celeste should hate him for it. Maybe she did. But she also understood it. This man had already lost his wife. His daughter had been through hell. He was building walls of control and money and power because those were the only tools he had to keep what remained of his family safe. 1 year, Celeste heard herself say. I'll give you 1 year. We renegotiate after that. 5 years minimum. Non-negotiable. 3 years or I walk now and you explain to Sofia why the person she finally spoke to is leaving. Dante's jaw clenched. For a long moment, they stared at each other, a battle of wills between a mafia boss used to absolute authority and a woman who'd already proven she wouldn't back down when it mattered. Finally, he nodded once. 3 years. But if Sofia still needs you after 3 years, we extend. Automatically. Fine. And Miss Baptiste? His voice dropped to something that made her skin prickle with awareness that had nothing to do with fear. Just so we're clear, you threw yourself in front of a bullet for my daughter. That means you're under my protection now, too. Anyone who wants to hurt you will answer to me. Anyone who threatens you or your family will disappear. You're mine to protect now. The possessiveness in those words should have terrified her. Instead, it sent something warm and dangerous curling through her chest. This man was offering her safety, security, everything she'd been desperately struggling to provide for herself and her family. All she had to do was surrender her freedom and bind herself to one of the most dangerous men in America. I'm not yours, Celeste said, even though they both knew she'd already made her choice. I belong to myself. Dante's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Keep telling yourself that, Celeste. But you signed away your independence the moment you decided Sofia's life was worth more than your own safety. He was right. God help her, he was right. And the worst part was, if she had to make that choice again, if she heard Sofia scream and saw that gun, she'd do the exact same thing. No hesitation, no second thoughts. When can I see her? Celeste asked. She's been sitting outside this room for the past 6 hours. I'll send her in. Dante moved toward the door, then paused. Thank you, Miss Baptiste, for saving her, for staying. I know you think I'm manipulating you, and you're not wrong. But my gratitude is real. After he left, Celeste lay back against the pillows, her shoulder throbbing with pain, her mind spinning with the magnitude of what she'd just agreed to. 3 years of her life, bound to this family, to their violence and their secrets. 3 years of being responsible for a traumatized little girl who needed more help than Celeste knew how to give. The door opened softly. Sofia stood in the doorway, small and pale in a pink nightgown. Her dark curls were tangled, her eyes red from crying. She looked at Celeste with such desperate hope that it physically hurt. Hi, sweet girl, Celeste said gently, holding out her uninjured arm. Come here. Sofia ran to the bed, careful not to jostle Celeste's injuries. She climbed up and curled into Celeste's side, her small body trembling. You got hurt because of me. No, baby. I got hurt because a bad man did a bad thing. That's not your fault. Papa says you're staying, that you're going to. Take care of me now. Sofia's voice was barely a whisper. Is that true? Celeste looked down at this precious child who'd already lost so much. Who'd been silent for 8 months because the world had become too painful to speak to. Who'd found her voice again because of a stranger who'd shown her that sometimes people stayed when things got hard instead of leaving. Yes, Celeste said, making a promise she had no idea if she could keep. "I'm staying. I'm going to take care of you, and we're going to figure out how to be okay together." "Deal?" Sofia's arms wrapped around her carefully. "Deal. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one." Through the window, Celeste could see Dante standing in the garden below. He was on the phone, his posture radiating the lethal authority that made men twice his size step aside when he walked into a room. But every few seconds, his eyes would drift up to the window where his daughter was, making sure she was still there, still safe. Celeste had thrown herself into a world she didn't understand, bound herself to people who lived by rules she'd only glimpsed from the shadows. She'd made a deal with a man who collected debts and enemies the way other people collected art. And for the first time in 2 years, since her mother's diagnosis had turned their world upside down, Celeste felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. Maybe it was naive. Maybe she was walking into a beautiful trap that would destroy her. But Sofia's small hand gripped her sleeve, trusting and warm, and Celeste thought maybe some cages were worth choosing. Maybe some families weren't made by blood but by the split-second decisions we make when everything's on the line. Maybe she'd just found exactly where she was supposed to be, even if getting here had required a bullet and a desperate leap into darkness. Dante Moretti turned from the window and caught her watching him. Their eyes met across the distance. He nodded once, acknowledgement, respect, something that looked almost like understanding. Then he turned back to his phone call, back to managing his empire of violence and power. Secure in the knowledge that his daughter was safe upstairs with the woman foolish enough or brave enough to take a bullet for a stranger's child. Celeste closed her eyes and let herself rest, Sofia warm and safe against her side, and tried not to think about how easily she'd surrendered her freedom. Tried not to wonder what it meant that Dante Moretti's gratitude felt more dangerous than his threats. Tried not to acknowledge the flutter of something complicated and terrifying that had sparked in her chest when he'd said, "You're mine to protect now." She had 3 years to figure out how to survive in this world. 3 years to help Sofia heal. 3 years to keep her heart locked away from a man who commanded loyalty with the same ease most people breathed. It should have been plenty of time. It should have been impossible to fall. But as sleep claimed her again, Celeste's last conscious thought was that she'd already made the most dangerous choice possible. Not agreeing to stay, but caring whether Dante Moretti thought she was brave. 2 months had passed since Celeste woke up in Dante's private quarters with a bullet wound and a binding contract. 2 months of living inside the gilded fortress of the Moretti estate, watching Sofia slowly emerge from her shell of silence like a butterfly testing damaged wings. 2 months of pretending she didn't notice the way Dante's eyes followed her through rooms, or the way her pulse quickened when his hand accidentally brushed hers during dinner. The apartment he'd given her was attached to Sofia's suite, a sprawling space with its own kitchen, bathroom, and windows that overlooked the rose garden where Sofia's mother used to paint. Celeste had learned not to ask too many questions about Isabella Moretti. The staff spoke of her in hushed, reverent tones. The beautiful wife who'd tried to soften her husband's sharp edges. The mother who'd filled the house with music and laughter. The woman who'd died in a car accident that everyone whispered wasn't an accident at all. Sofia was making progress. She spoke now, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. She laughed at Celeste's terrible jokes and demanded bedtime stories about brave princesses who saved themselves. She'd started eating without someone having to coax every bite. The nightmares still came, but less frequently, and when they did, Celeste was there to hold her until the trembling stopped. But with every step Sofia took toward healing, Celeste felt herself sinking deeper into a world she'd promised herself she'd never belonged to. She attended family dinners where men discussed territory disputes over wine that cost more than her old monthly rent. She sat in on meetings where Dante's lieutenants reported on shipments and collections and problems that got solved with violence she was never supposed to witness. She learned to read the subtle shifts in Dante's expression, the tightening of his jaw that meant someone had betrayed him, the dangerous calm that preceded his most ruthless decisions. And she learned that Dante Moretti was not the monster the world believed him to be. Or rather, he was a monster, but a complicated one. He kissed his daughter's forehead every night, with a tenderness that made Celeste's heart ache. He remembered every servant's name and their children's birthdays. He paid for his gardener's son's surgery without being asked. He was terrifying and gentle, ruthless and kind, and Celeste was falling for him in ways that guaranteed her destruction. "You're staring again." Lucia, the head housekeeper and the closest thing Celeste had to a friend in this place, appeared beside her in the hallway. They were watching, through the library windows as Dante played chess with Sofia in the garden, his dark suit jacket discarded, his sleeves rolled up, looking more like a devoted father than a mafia king. "I'm observing," Celeste corrected, though heat crept up her neck, "making sure Sofia's okay." "Sofia's fine. You're the one I'm worried about." Lucia had worked for the Morettis for 20 years. She'd seen 3 generations of this family rise and fall. Her opinion carried weight. "You're getting attached." "I'm supposed to be attached. That's literally my job." "Not to him." Lucia's voice dropped. "Dante's not like other men, Celeste. When he loves, he consumes. Isabella found that out. It's why she tried to leave." Celeste turned sharply. "What?" Lucia glanced around, making sure they were alone. 2 weeks before she died, Isabella packed bags for herself and Sofia. She was going to run, take the girls somewhere Dante couldn't find them. She paused. But she never made it out. The car accident happened the night she planned to leave. Ice spread through Celeste's veins. "Are you saying Dante killed her?" "I'm saying the timing was convenient, and I'm saying you should be careful about where you let your heart wander. This family destroys the people it loves most." Before Celeste could respond, Sofia's delighted laugh rang out across the garden. Dante had let her win the chess match, and the little girl was dancing around him in victory. He caught her mid-spin, lifting her into his arms, and for just a moment, the dangerous edge that always surrounded him softened into something almost peaceful. Celeste's phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "The doctors say the treatment is working. They're optimistic about remission. I don't know how to thank you for making this possible." Another text immediately after. "Marcus got an internship at one of Mr. Moretti's companies. Tiana loves her new job. You've saved us all, baby girl." Guilt and gratitude twisted together in Celeste's chest. Her family was thriving because she'd sold herself to this beautiful, terrible world. Because she'd agreed to care for a traumatized child and ignore the violence that funded the marble floors and designer clothes. Because she was falling in love with a man who might have murdered his wife. That evening, Dante requested her presence in his office after Sofia went to bed. Celeste's stomach knotted with apprehension as she knocked on the heavy oak door. "Enter." The office was all dark wood and leather, bookshelves lined with first editions, a desk that had probably witnessed countless lives being negotiated and ended. Dante stood by the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his profile sharp against the city lights beyond. "You wanted to see me?" Celeste remained near the door, maintaining distance like a shield. "We need to discuss Sofia's therapy." He didn't turn around. "Doctor?" "Morrison says she's making remarkable progress. Better than anyone expected. She's a strong kid. She's strong because of you." Now he did turn, and the intensity in his eyes made Celeste want to step back and move closer simultaneously. "You've given her something I couldn't hope that the world can still be safe. You're her father. You give her plenty. I give her security, stability, protection." Dante moved toward her slowly, like approaching something wild that might bolt. "But I can't give her the softness she needs, the gentleness. That's you, Celeste. You balance what I am." "What are you exactly?" The question escaped before she could stop it. His smile was dark. "You know what I am. You've been living in my house for 2 months. You've seen the men who come and go. You've heard enough conversations to understand that my legitimate businesses are just window dressing for something much darker." He stopped a few feet away. "Does it frighten you?" "Yes." "Good. Fear means you're smart enough to survive here." He took a sip of whiskey. "But it doesn't stop you from looking at me the way you do." Celeste's breath caught. Don't lie. Not to me." His voice was velvet over steel. "I see how your eyes follow me across rooms. How your pulse jumps when I get too close. How you pretend not to notice when I watch you with Sofia and think about how perfectly you fit into the space my wife left behind. That's inappropriate." But her voice shook, betraying her. "Everything about this situation is inappropriate." Dante set down his glass. "You're my employee. You're 24 to my 36. You're an innocent woman who stumbled into a world of violence. And yet I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting to know what your skin tastes like. Can't stop imagining what it would be like to have someone look at me the way you do, like I'm a man first and a monster second." Dante. His name felt dangerous on her lips. "Tell me I'm alone in this." He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, sandalwood, and something darker. "Tell me you don't lie awake at night thinking about me. Tell me I'm imagining the way you soften when I enter a room. Lie to me, Celeste, and I'll never mention this again. She should lie. Should protect herself and Sofia and the fragile peace they'd built. Should remember Lucia's warning about how this family destroyed what it loved. But Celeste had never been good at self-preservation. It's why she'd thrown herself in front of a bullet. Why she'd signed a contract that made her a prisoner in paradise. Why she was staring into the eyes of a man who could ruin her, and feeling her resistance crumble. I can't, she whispered. I can't lie to you. The air between them ignited. Dante's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. This is a mistake. You understand that? Yes. I'll hurt you, eventually. It's what I do. I know. And you're choosing this anyway? Celeste covered his hand with hers. I chose this the moment I ran toward. Gunfire instead of away from it. I'm not good at safe choices, Mr. Moretti. Dante, he corrected roughly. When you look at me like that, I'm just Dante. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like the romance novels Celeste had hidden under her bed as a teenager. It was consuming and desperate, tasting like whiskey and poor decisions. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and she went willingly, surrendering to something she'd been fighting since she woke up in his bedroom 2 months ago. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. This can't be casual. I don't do casual. What does that mean? It means if we do this, if we cross this line, you become mine in every way. It means I'll be possessive and jealous and probably insufferable. It means my enemies will see you as my weakness and try to use you against me. It means Sofia will get attached to the idea of us as a family, and if this falls apart, it'll break her. His grip tightened. It means you'll see parts of me that will make you question whether I'm worth the darkness. Celeste pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Did you kill Isabella? The question dropped between them like a grenade. Dante's expression shuddered, all the vulnerability vanishing behind cold stone. Who told you that? Answer the question. For a long moment she thought he wouldn't, thought he'd throw her out or worse. Then his shoulders dropped, and he suddenly looked every one of his 36 years. No. But I might as well have. What does that mean? It means Isabella begged me to leave this life, to take Sofia and disappear somewhere safe. And I refused because I thought I could protect them better with power and money than I could by running. His voice cracked. The Castellano family wanted to weaken me. They knew the best way to do that was to take what I loved most. So they tampered with her brakes, made it look like an accident. And by the time I figured out it was murder, Isabella was already gone. Did you make them pay? She shouldn't ask, shouldn't want to know. I destroyed them. Simple, final, no remorse. Burned their operations to the ground, sent the ones who ordered it to graves they'll never be found in. Started a war that's still simmering under the surface. He looked at her with haunted eyes. I avenged my wife by becoming exactly the monster she'd begged me not to be. So no, Celeste. I didn't kill Isabella, but my choices did. The raw honesty in his confession broke something open in Celeste's chest. This man carried his guilt like chains, punishing himself every day for surviving when his wife hadn't, for choosing power over peace, for being exactly what the world expected him to be. You're giving me one more chance to walk away, she realized. I'm giving you the truth. What you do with it is your choice. Celeste thought about her family, safe and thriving because of Dante's money. Thought about Sofia, finally, healing because someone had shown her that love didn't always end in abandonment. Thought about the man in front of her, terrifying and broken, and somehow still capable of such devastating tenderness. I'm not walking away, she said. But we do this my way. Dante's eyebrow arched. Your way? Sofia comes first, always. If this thing between us starts to hurt her, we stop. No matter how we feel. She stepped closer. You don't hide the darkness from me, but you also don't let it consume us. And we're honest. About everything. I won't be another Isabella someone kept in the dark for her own protection. That's a dangerous request. Then I guess we're both choosing danger. He kissed her again. Slower this time, sealing the agreement. When he pulled back, his eyes burned with something that looked like possession and promise. You're mine now, Celeste Baptiste. And I protect what's mine. I don't need protection. I need partnership. You'll get both. His thumb traced her lower lip. Fair warning, I'm not good at sharing. Any man who looks at you wrong will regret it. Any threat to you will be eliminated. I'm going to be territorial and probably irrational about your safety. As long as you remember I make my own choices. Even if those choices put you in danger? Especially then. Dante laughed, the sound rusty like he didn't do it often enough. You're going to be the death of me, aren't you? Or your salvation? We'll see which comes first. The next few weeks passed in a blur of stolen moments and dangerous intimacy. Dante would brush his hand against hers during breakfast when Sofia wasn't looking. Celeste would find him watching her from doorways, his expression unguarded in ways she suspected few people ever witnessed. They didn't hide their relationship exactly, but they were careful around Sofia, waiting for the right moment to introduce the idea that Celeste might be more than just her guardian. But in private, away from observant eyes, they learned each other. Dante told her about his childhood in Naples, about his father's brutality and his mother's quiet strength, about how he'd built his empire from nothing, fueled by rage and ambition. Celeste shared her own history, growing up in Brooklyn, watching her mother work 3 jobs, learning early that love meant sacrifice. "You're too good for this world," Dante murmured one night as they sat in his study. Celeste curled against him on the leather sofa, while he reviewed reports that probably detailed illegal activities she was better off not knowing about. "Don't romanticize me. I'm here because you pay me well enough to save my family. You're here because you have a hero complex and a death wish." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "But I'm selfish enough to keep you anyway. What happens when Sofia doesn't need me anymore? When the 3 years are up? Then I'll find other reasons to keep you." His arms tightened around her. "Don't think about leaving, Celeste. I won't. Survive it well." The warning in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it felt like a promise. They were both too deep now, too entangled. Leaving would require amputation. Everything changed on a Tuesday in late September. Celeste was in the garden with Sofia, teaching her to identify different types of roses, when Marco, one of Dante's most trusted lieutenants, appeared with tension written across his face. "Miss Baptiste, I need you to bring Sofia inside. Now." Something in his tone made Celeste's instincts scream. "What's wrong? Please. Just trust me." Sofia's hand gripped Celeste's tighter. "Is Papa okay?" "Your Papa's fine, sweetheart. But we need to go inside for a bit." Celeste kept her voice calm even as her heart raced. She'd been around Dante's world long enough to know that when the guards got tense, bad things were about to happen. Marco escorted them to Sofia's suite and positioned himself outside the door. "Don't leave this room until Mr. Moretti or I come for you. Lock the door behind me." Through the windows, Celeste watched black SUVs pour through the estate gates, not Dante's vehicles. These were unmarked, moving with military precision. Her blood turned to ice. This was an attack. Another family making a move against the Morettis. Sofia must have sensed the danger because she pressed close to Celeste's side. "Are the bad men back?" "No, baby. We're safe here. Your Papa's got everything under control." Celeste pulled out her phone, texting Dante. "What's happening?" His response was immediate. "Stay in Sofia's room. Don't open the door for anyone but me. I love you." Those last 3 words, sent in the middle of whatever crisis was unfolding, hit Celeste like a physical blow. He'd never said them before. They'd been careful with language, dancing around the depth of what was growing between them. But now, facing possible violence, he'd given her those words like armor. "I love you too," she typed back. "Be careful." Gunshots cracked in the distance. Sofia whimpered. Celeste gathered the little girl into her arms, carrying her to the bathroom, the most interior room with no windows. She locked them inside and sat on the floor with Sofia in her lap, humming the lullabies that usually chased away nightmares. The minutes crawled past. More gunshots, shouting in Italian. The sounds of chaos getting closer, then receding. Celeste's phone buzzed constantly with updates from Dante's security team, each message reassuring her that the threat was contained, the perimeter was secure, Sofia was safe. But no message from Dante himself. An hour passed, then 2. Sofia had fallen into an exhausted sleep against Celeste's chest when someone finally knocked on the suite door. "Miss Baptiste, it's Marco. You can come out now." Celeste carried Sofia out of the bathroom and opened the suite door carefully. Marco looked haggard, blood spattered on his shirt sleeve. "Is Dante? He's alive. In his office, he sent me to check on you both." Marco's expression was carefully neutral. "But you should know things are about to get complicated." "What does that mean?" It means the Castellano family just declared open war. They came here to send a message. He glanced at Sofia, still sleeping. They wanted the girl. Celeste's arms tightened reflexively. They're not getting her. That's what Mr. Moretti told them, right before he put a bullet in Angelo Castellano's knee. Marco's voice held grim satisfaction. But they'll come back, harder, and they'll target anyone Dante cares about. The implication was clear. Celeste had just become a liability, a target, someone the enemies could use to hurt Dante. She'd known it was a possibility when they'd started this relationship, but understanding it intellectually and facing it as reality were very different things. "Take me to him," Celeste said. She laid Sofia in her bed first, making sure the little girl was comfortable before following Marco through the mansion. The evidence of the attack was everywhere: bullet holes in walls, shattered glass, guards stationed at every corner with weapons visible. The beautiful facade of civility had been stripped away, revealing the violence underneath. Dante's office looked like a war room. Maps spread across his desk, marked with territories and strategic points. His inner circle gathered around him, hard men with harder eyes, discussing retaliation and defense strategies. But when Celeste entered, everyone else became background noise. He crossed to her in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, holding so tightly she could barely breathe. "Are you hurt? Is Sofia? We're fine. We hid in the bathroom like Marco told us." Dante pulled back enough to frame her face with his hands, searching for any sign of trauma. Then he kissed her, fierce and possessive, and not caring that his entire crew was watching. When he finally released her, his eyes were molten. "I need you to leave, tonight. You and Sofia. I'm sending you somewhere safe until this is over." "No. This isn't a discussion, Celeste. You're right. It's not." She held his gaze, refusing to back down. "You told me I was yours. That means you don't get to ship me away when things get dangerous. That means we face this together. They'll use you against me. They'll hurt you to break me." His voice cracked with desperation. "I can't lose you. I can't lose either of you. Not after Isabella. I'm not Isabella." Celeste's hand covered his heart. "I know what I'm choosing. I know the risks. And I'm still choosing you, us, this family. You're insane. I took a bullet for your daughter, remember? Sanity isn't my strong suit." One of his lieutenants cleared his throat awkwardly. "Boss, we need to make decisions. The Castellanos will regroup quickly." Dante's jaw worked as he stared at Celeste, clearly torn between his need to protect her and his understanding that she'd never forgive him for forcing her away. Finally, he nodded. "Fine, but you don't leave this estate without a security team. You don't go anywhere I can't have eyes on you. And if I say run, you run. No arguments. Deal." He kissed her forehead, then turned back to his men, slipping into the role of commander as easily as breathing. Celeste stood to the side and watched him coordinate defenses, plan offensives, and transform from the gentle father who played chess with his daughter into the ruthless mafia boss who built empires on blood and fear. And she realized with absolute clarity that she'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love with both versions of him, the monster and the man, the darkness and the light, all of it. Even if that love destroyed her, it would be worth it. Because for the first time in her life, Celeste had found somewhere she belonged, not despite the danger, but woven into it. A family held together by violence and devotion in equal measure. She'd walked into Dante Moretti's world expecting to save his daughter. She hadn't expected to lose her heart to the man everyone said was incapable of love. Hadn't expected to become so entangled in this dangerous life that leaving would feel like dying. But here she was. All in. No regrets. At least not yet. The war with the Castellano family lasted 6 brutal weeks. 6 weeks of living under siege, of armed guards flanking every door, of Sofia's nightmares returning with a vengeance. 6 weeks of Celeste learning to sleep with one ear always listening for danger, her hand reaching across the bed in the middle of the night to make sure Dante was still breathing beside her. They'd moved Sofia into a reinforced bedroom next to Dante's master suite, and Celeste had officially moved in as well. There was no point in pretending anymore. The staff knew. Sofia knew she'd caught them kissing one morning and responded with delighted giggles and questions about whether Celeste would be her new mama. Dante's inner circle knew, which meant his enemies knew too. Celeste Baptiste had become a target painted in neon lights. The first attempt on her life came on a Wednesday. She was leaving Sofia's therapy appointment doctor. Morrison had started making house calls given the security situation when two men in maintenance uniforms appeared in the hallway. Something about their movements felt wrong. The way they angled their bodies, the bulges under their jackets. Celeste's hand found the panic button Dante had insisted she wear as a bracelet. She pressed it 3 times the code for immediate threat and ran. Not away from Sofia's room, but toward it, because her first instinct was always to protect the little girl, even when her own life was in danger. She heard the men's footsteps pounding behind her, heard the click of a safety being released. Then Marco appeared from a side corridor, his weapon already drawn, and the hallway exploded into violence. Celeste threw herself through Sofia's doorway and locked it behind her, her hands shaking so badly she could barely work the deadbolt. Sofia looked up from her coloring book, eyes wide with fear. "Celeste? It's okay, baby. Just some bad men being stupid. Your papa's guards are handling it." Celeste forced her voice steady even though her heart was trying to beat out of her chest. She could hear gunshots, shouting, the sounds of a fight, then silence. Dante's voice came through the door moments later. "Celeste, open up. It's over." She unlocked it with trembling fingers. Dante swept her into his arms, his hands running over her body, checking for injuries even though she kept telling him she was fine. His face was white beneath his olive complexion, his eyes wild with something that looked like terror. "They got within 10 feet of you." His voice shook with rage. 10 fucking feet. But they didn't get me. Marco was there. The system worked. The system failed. Dante pulled back, gripping her shoulders. "I'm sending you away. Tonight. No arguments this time." "Papa, no." Sofia's cry cut through the tension. She launched herself at them both, wrapping her small arms around their legs. "Don't send Celeste away. Please. The bad men will win if we run." Dante looked down at his daughter, then at Celeste, and something in his expression cracked. He sank to his knees, gathering Sofia close. "I can't protect you both. Don't you understand? If something happens to either of you because of me, then we fight together." Celeste knelt beside them, completing the circle. "We're a family now, Dante. Families don't scatter when things get hard. We already lost Isabella that way. Are you going to make the same mistake twice?" The words were harsh, maybe too harsh, but they needed to be said. Dante had been trying to protect his wife by keeping her separate from his world, and it had gotten her killed. Now he was trying to do the same thing to Celeste, and it would end the same way with distance and vulnerability and regret. "I'm scared," Dante admitted, his voice breaking. "I'm fucking terrified of losing you. Both of you. Then let us stay." Celeste took his face in her hands. "Let us be strong together instead of weak apart. Trust that I can survive this world because you've taught me how. Trust that Sofia is safer with both of us than she would be hidden away somewhere with only guards for company." Sofia nodded vigorously. "I'm brave when you're both here. Please don't make me go away, Papa." Dante looked between them, his daughter who'd finally learned to speak again, and the woman who'd somehow become his anchor in a sea of violence. Celeste watched the war play out across his face, the instinct to control versus the understanding that love meant letting go of that control. The fear of loss versus the courage to fight for what remained. "If we do this," he said finally, "if you stay, then we end this war. Permanently. No more defensive positions. We go on the offensive and we don't stop until the Castellano family is nothing but a memory." "What does that mean exactly?" Celeste needed to know. Needed to understand what she was agreeing to. Dante's eyes went cold. "It means I'm going to do what I should have done when they killed Isabella. I'm going to burn them to the ground and salt the earth where they stood. It means blood, Celeste. A lot of it. Can you do that without becoming someone Sofia shouldn't see? I don't know. Honest. Raw. But I know I can't be the father she needs if I'm constantly terrified her next breath will be her last. The only way forward is through." Celeste thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago. The nursing school dropout working 3 jobs, exhausted and desperate and barely surviving. That girl would have run, would have taken the out Dante was offering, and never looked back. But she wasn't that girl anymore. She'd been transformed by bullets and blood, and the fierce love of a broken family trying desperately to heal. "Then we end it," she said. Together. The offensive began that night. Dante's organization moved with surgical precision against Castellano operations across the city. Warehouses burned, shipments were intercepted. Key players disappeared in the middle of the night, never to be seen again. It was brutal and efficient, and exactly as ruthless as Celeste had expected. But Dante kept his promise. He didn't let the violence touch their home more than necessary. He still had breakfast with Sofia every morning, still read her bedtime stories, still kissed Celeste like she was oxygen, and he'd been drowning. The monster stayed outside their walls, and inside, he was just a man trying to protect his family the only way he knew how. 2 weeks into the campaign, Paolo Castellano, the family patriarch, requested a meeting. Neutral ground, no weapons, just talk. "It's a trap," Marco said flatly. "He's never agreed to negotiate before. He wants to get close enough to put a bullet in you personally." "Probably." Dante studied the message on his phone. "But if there's a chance to end this without more bloodshed, I have to take it. For Sofia, for Celeste. I'm tired of living like we're under siege in our own home." "Then let me go in your place," Marco offered. "Or at least let me go with you." "No. If it's a trap, I don't want to lose you too. You're Sofia's godfather. If something happens to me, you're the one I trust to protect them." Dante clasped Marco's shoulder. "Promise me. No matter what happens in that meeting, you get Celeste and Sofia somewhere safe. The accounts I've set up, the documents, the safe house locations, you know where everything is. Boss, promise me." "Marco, I promise." Celeste overheard the conversation from the doorway. When Marco left, she stepped into the office and closed the door behind her. "You're not going alone to that meeting." "Yes, I am." Dante didn't even look surprised that she'd been listening. "This is my war, Celeste. My consequences to face. Our family. Our consequences." She moved closer. "What happens to Sofia if you die? What happens to me? You'll be taken care of. I've made sure. I don't care about money." Her voice rose. "I care about you. About us. About the life we're building together. You don't get to throw that away on some noble sacrifice." "I'm not being noble. I'm being practical." Dante finally met her eyes. "Paolo wants me dead. Has wanted it since I destroyed his operation in retaliation for Isabella. This meeting is his chance to finish what he started. But if he gets what he wants, if I'm gone, then his vendetta is satisfied. You and Sofia will be safe. You're not a sacrifice to be offered up." Celeste's hands fisted in his shirt. "You're the man I love. The father Sofia needs. The center of this family. We don't trade you for safety. Even if it's the only way? It's not the only way. There's always another way." She pressed her forehead to his. "Come with me, right now. Let's take Sofia and disappear. Marco can handle the business. We can start over somewhere the Castellanos will never find us." For a moment, Dante looked tempted. His arms came around her, holding tight. "I can't run. Not from this. If I run, I'm weak. And weakness in this world gets everyone you love killed eventually. The only way to protect you is to be strong enough that no one dares touch what's mine. Then be strong enough to live." Celeste pulled back. "Be strong enough to come home from that meeting. Be strong enough to choose us over revenge or pride or whatever Mafia code says you have to handle this alone. I'll come home." He kissed her softly. "I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. I've never broken a promise to you. Not going to start now." The meeting was set for the following evening at an old warehouse on the waterfront. Dante left the estate alone despite Marco's protests and Celeste's silent tears. Sofia had clung to him at the door, making him swear he'd be back for their chess game. He'd sworn. Then he'd kissed Celeste like it might be the last time, and walked away without looking back. Celeste spent the next 3 hours pacing Sofia's room, checking her phone obsessively, trying not to imagine all the ways this could go wrong. Marco had positioned men around the perimeter of the warehouse despite Dante's orders. "If it goes bad," he told Celeste, "we'll get him out." But as the sun set and no word came, Celeste's dread deepened. She was reading to Sofia for the 3rd time, the little girl sensing her anxiety and refusing to let her leave when Marco burst through the door. "They have him. The Castellanos ambushed our perimeter team. Dante's alive but wounded. They're holding him at the warehouse, and Paolo's making demands." Celeste's world tilted. "What kind of demands?" "You." Marco's expression was grim. "He wants you to trade yourself for Dante. Says if you come alone and unarmed, he'll let Dante go. It's about making a point proving that Dante's weakness is the people he loves. Then I go." "Absolutely not. Dante would never. Dante isn't here." Celeste stood, already moving toward the door. "And I'm not letting him die because some old man wants to prove a point about power and weakness." "Celeste, Think about Sofia. If you die, then you take care of her. Just like Dante asked. She turned back to the little girl who was watching with wide, terrified eyes. Celeste knelt beside the bed. Baby, I need to go help your papa. But I'm coming back. We both are. I promise. Don't go. Sofia's voice was small. The bad men will hurt you like they hurt Mama. They might try. But I'm tougher than I look. Celeste kissed her forehead. Remember how I told you that being brave means being scared, but doing the right thing anyway? This is one of those times. Your papa would do this for me. Now I'm doing it for him. Because you love him. Because I love both of you. More than anything. Celeste hugged her tight. Be good for Uncle Marco, okay? The warehouse was exactly as ominous as Celeste had feared. Dark, isolated, the kind of place where bad things happened and nobody heard the screams. 2 guards met her at the entrance, patting her down for weapons before shoving her inside. Dante was bound to a chair in the center of the empty space, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. When he saw Celeste, his expression transformed from resignation to absolute horror. No, Celeste, what the fuck are you doing here? Saving your life. You're welcome. I told Marco to keep you safe. I told him, Marco follows my orders now. She walked toward Dante despite the guns tracking her movement. Sorry, but I'm not very good at letting people I love die for me. Paolo Castellano emerged from the shadows. He was older than Celeste expected, maybe 70, but his eyes were sharp and cruel. The hero arrives. How touching. Let him go. Celeste kept her voice steady. That was the deal. I'm here. He goes free. The deal was you come alone and unarmed. You satisfied those conditions. But I never said anything about timing. Paolo smiled. See, I want Dante to watch what happens to people foolish enough to love him. Just like I had to watch what he did to my family. Your family killed his wife. Celeste's hands clenched. Started this war. Don't pretend you're the victim here. War is war. We all make choices. Paolo pulled out a gun. Dante chose to destroy my empire. I'm choosing to destroy what he loves. It's poetry, really. Everything happened at once. Paolo raised the gun toward Celeste. Dante roared, somehow breaking the ropes that bound him with pure, desperate strength, and the warehouse doors exploded inward as Marco's team breached with military precision. Celeste hit the ground as bullets flew overhead. She army-crawled toward Dante, who tackled Paolo despite being injured and restrained. The 2 men fought with brutal intensity, years of hatred fueling every blow. Around them, Dante's men systematically took down the Castellano guards. Then the gunfire stopped. The warehouse fell eerily silent. Dante stood over Paolo's unconscious form, breathing hard, his fists bloody. His eyes found Celeste immediately. Are you hurt? No. You? I'll live. He crossed to her, pulling her up and into his arms. You were supposed to stay safe. So were you. Looks like we're both terrible at following orders. Marco approached, his weapon still drawn. Boss, what do you want to do with Castellano? Dante looked down at the man who'd caused so much pain. Who'd killed Isabella. Who'd just tried to kill Celeste. Every line of his body radiated the desire for lethal vengeance. But then he looked at Celeste, and something shifted. Call the FBI. Dante's voice was rough. Give them everything, the evidence of Isabella's murder, the attacks on my home, tonight's ambush. Let the law handle this. Marco's eyes widened. Are you serious? I'm tired of blood, Marco. I'm tired of being the monster everyone expects me to be. My daughter deserves a father who comes home without blood on his hands. Celeste deserves a man who chooses life over death. He pulled Celeste closer. So yeah, I'm serious. The Castellano family is done, one way or another. But I'm not going to be the one to end them. It wasn't the clean, simple ending Celeste might have hoped for. There were months of legal proceedings, testimony, negotiations with federal prosecutors who were thrilled to finally have leverage against both organizations. Dante made a deal full cooperation, in exchange for immunity, and a way out of the life that had defined him since childhood. The empire was dismantled piece by piece. The legitimate businesses were restructured, the illegal operations shut down or handed over to authorities. Men who'd been loyal to Dante for decades were given generous severance packages and released from their oaths. It was painful and messy and sometimes heartbreaking, watching Dante methodically destroy everything his father had built. But with every piece that fell away, he seemed lighter. freer. More like the man he might have been if he'd been born into a different family, a different life. 6 months after that night in the warehouse, they stood in a courthouse in upstate New York. No grand wedding, no elaborate ceremony. Just Dante, Celeste, Sofia, and a judge who'd known Dante's mother before she died. Marco stood as witness, trying unsuccessfully to hide tears as Dante and Celeste exchanged vows. "I promise to love you through every version of ourselves we become," Celeste said, her voice steady. "Through the darkness and the light, through the fear and the courage, through every choice we make together. I promise to be worthy of the faith you have in me," Dante responded. "To be the man Sofia sees when she draws pictures of our family, to choose you, every day, over everything else." When they kissed, Sofia cheered so loudly the judge laughed. They left the courthouse as a legal family, the Morettis, legitimate and whole, and finally free from the weight of generations of violence. The house they moved into was nothing like the mansion. It was a farmhouse 2 hours north of the city, with land for Sofia to run wild, and neighbors who asked no questions about their past. Dante took a position as a consultant for the FBI, using his knowledge of organized crime to help dismantle other families. Celeste returned to nursing school, determined to finish what she'd started before life had derailed her dreams. And Sofia? Sofia thrived. She made friends at the local school. She took riding lessons at a nearby stable. She talked constantly, making up for all those silent months with stories and questions and laughter that filled every corner of their new home. Sometimes she had nightmares about the bad men, but she had 2 parents now to chase them away. On a Saturday morning 1 year later, Celeste stood in their kitchen watching Dante teach Sofia to make pancakes. Flour dusted his hair. Sofia's laughter rang out as she flipped a pancake that landed half on the pan, half on the floor. They were messy and imperfect, and absolutely beautiful. Dante caught her watching and smiled that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. He crossed to her, flour-covered hands settling on her waist. "What are you thinking about?" "How I almost missed my bus that night in the city." It was a joke they'd developed, rewriting their story to match the tale they told curious neighbors. How one missed bus led to all of this. Best missed bus in history. He kissed her softly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing who I could be instead of who I was. For loving me enough to make me want to change. For giving me a reason to walk away from that life before it killed us all. I didn't make you change. You chose it. Because you showed me there was something worth choosing." His hand moved to her stomach, where their second child was just beginning to grow. "You gave me a future, Celeste. A real one, not just survival wrapped in expensive suits. We gave each other a future," she corrected. "That's how love works. It's not one person saving another. It's 2 people choosing to save each other, over and over, until saving becomes living." "Mama, Papa, come help," Sofia called. "The pancakes are attacking." They returned to the chaos of breakfast, to the beautiful, ordinary mess of family life. And Celeste thought about the girl she'd been broke, desperate, drowning in responsibility. That girl had thrown herself in front of a bullet to save a stranger's child, and in doing so, had saved herself, had found the family she'd been searching for her whole life. The Mafia romance novels always ended with the heroine either destroyed by the darkness or trapped in it forever. But real life was more complicated. Sometimes the darkness could be walked away from. Sometimes the monster could choose to be a man. Sometimes love was strong enough not to change someone, but to give them permission to change themselves. Celeste Baptiste had collapsed, protecting a Mafia boss's daughter, and what he'd found in her pocket was just a photograph of her own family. But what he'd found in her heart was something far more valuable: hope, the belief that people could be better than their circumstances, that love could exist even in the darkest places, that families could be built from broken pieces and still stand strong. And standing in that flour-covered kitchen, with her husband's arms around her and her daughter's laughter filling the air, Celeste knew she'd made the right choice. Every dangerous, terrifying, beautiful choice that had led her here. She'd missed her metaphorical bus that night. She'd decided to run toward danger instead of away from it. And she'd ended up exactly where she belonged. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.